7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. Yeah, no, I don't know what I was thinking either. But it was done as a race around the world. We started off in Union Glacier in Antarctica, and then we went to Punta Arenas in Chile for South America, Miami in the US for North America, Madrid for Spain, for Europe, Marrakesh, Morocco for Africa, Dubai in the Emirates for Asia, and finished up under the Harbour Bridge in Sydney, Australia. It was a race run against 11 other people, and people from all around the world. There was people from India, Finland, England, Ireland, US, Australia, and me from Hong Kong. It was wonderful, and it was amazing, and it was a trip of a lifetime. I was fortunate enough to win overall. Thank you. I was also fortunate enough to set a new world record for the fastest ever marathon on the Antarctic continent. And also the world record for the fastest time for 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. So, but I'll stop boasting now. But it was also brutal. It was really, really tough, and I never ever want to do it again. And I guess the funny thing was, I was the guy you'd never expect to do this. I was the person least likely to do it. But I am the person who knows the moment my life changed. And my life changed 7 years and 5 months ago. My wife was pregnant with our first daughter. I was outside our flat. I was smoking a cigarette after I told my wife I'd given up smoking for the umpteenth time. And I came back into the flat, and she sat me down, and she said, look, your first daughter's going to be born in a few months, and you've got to have a think, because I love you however you are, but you're about 30 kilos overweight, and you're drinking, and you're smoking, and you're not fit, and you're not healthy. And when your daughter is born, she is going to look up to you, and she's going to want to be like you. And I don't know, you can make a lot of excuses for yourself, we all do. You all make excuses for who you are, and you pretend things aren't there. But when someone casts that light through someone else you love, all that facade comes crashing down, and I did not want my daughter to be that person. So that day changed, and I stopped smoking on the day, and got healthy, got fit, got a bike, went out running, got a bit better, started racing, did 5K races, 10K, got more enthusiastic, did some triathlon, half marathon, Ironman, ultra marathon, and I got to this point of thinking, what next? What do I do next? And I thought, I know, I want to run a marathon on every continent. And I thought, that sounds a bit easy. I want to try and do that in 7 days. And so I got onto the internet, and I looked at it all, and I was trying to work it all out. And I emailed the only person I could find who'd done this before. And he said, you know, that actually sounds like a good fun thing to do again. I'm in, but let's do it as a race. And I'll get back to you. Didn't hear from him at all. 6 months later, I get an email from him, okay, we're good to go, are you in or are you out? And I thought, yeah, I'm in, no worries at all, I'm keen. So from that day I started training for this race. And I mean, I was fairly fit to start with. I'd just come off an Ironman build, so I was fairly okay, but this required a lot of specific training. And I'm just a family guy like the rest of you. I'm not a professional athlete. I have a day job, I have a wife, I have 2 dogs, I have 2 kids who are sitting over there. Hi, girls. But I had to fit this into my normal life. And for me, that meant every day, pretty much, I'd get up around 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd train for about 2 hours or so, go to work all day, come home, spend some time with the kids, fall asleep by about 8, and then wake up and do it again. During my peak weeks, I was running 5 days a week, about 120 kilometers a week, 3 bikes a week for about 200, 250 Ks, 2 swims a week, and 3 gym sessions. Obviously, I was doing double sessions on weekends to get through it all. But I did get through it all, and fast forward 6 months in time, and I found myself in Antarctica. There we go. We hitched a ride on this Russian military plane to get to Antarctica, because there's no scheduled flights. You can't just take a jet, you can't take an airline to Antarctica. They were transporting Argentinian troops to their base in Belgrano. It's about 600 miles from the South Pole. And we landed on the ice, and this is really cool because I didn't realize any of this, but there is nothing in Antarctica. There is no buildings, there's no runway, there's no trees, there's no birds, there's no dogs or cats, there's nothing. But we landed, it was all good. The plane can't stay on the runway because it'll freeze solid to the ice, so the plane had to take off and go. And so we went to the camp, and we stayed in the camp for a couple of days. We had to wait as close as possible to when the plane came back to start going, because from the moment the starting gun went in Antarctica, we had 7 days, 168 hours to get to the finish line in Sydney. And we didn't know when the plane was coming back because it depended on weather and troop movements and so forth. But about 3 days later, at 11 p.m. at night, there was a knock on my tent door, and it was the race director, and he said, "The plane's in the air, we've got to go, we're on now." And it is 11 p.m., but let me be clear, it's daylight 24 hours, so it doesn't really matter what time of day or night it is, it's fine, you can run. And so we did, and first stop was the medical tent for briefing, and then starting line. And I got to the medical tent, and I'll never forget this. The camp doctor stands up, and he says, "I'm going to tell you all one thing. If you sweat, you will die. Because if you sweat, your shirt will become full of water, it'll freeze solid nearly instantly, it'll act as a plate against your torso, it'll suck all the heat out of you, you'll become hypothermic, there is nothing we can do here for you." And I'm thinking, great. I'm a guy who trained in semi-tropical Hong Kong learning to sweat for a living while I run. But this was, I guess, the interesting thing about it all. You had to dress pretty light, and you had to use the heat from your running to keep you warm. So for me, that meant a long-sleeve t-shirt and a wind cheater, and about the same on the bottom. And this was in minus 15 to 20 Celsius. So you had to not sweat on one hand, and on the other hand, you had to not stop running, because if you stopped running, you'd also freeze to death. But no time to worry, time to go on. And we get to the starting line, and the gun goes off. And I don't know if any of you guys are runners, but if you're a runner, there are days when the wind is at your back and the spring is in your step and you are the gazelle. And on that day, I was the gazelle. And it was amazing. I had a grin from ear to ear. It was just an absolutely wonderful experience. I got about halfway around the course. And I'll try and fast forward too. There we go. And they told me I was about half an hour up on the guy in second place. And I thought, holy smokes, that guy in second place, he looked pretty strong. And if I'm this far ahead, this is not a day race, this is a 7-day race. You've got to sort of be conservative. I thought, I'm only in Antarctica once, I may as well go for it to have a laugh here, see what happens. So I kept running hard, and I got to the finish line, and they told me I set a new world record in Antarctica. That was wonderful. I took my shoes off, I had frostbite in 2 toes, that wasn't so wonderful, but the race must go on. And best news of all, we all made the plane back to Punta Arena. So we all made the flight back home, it was good. Got to Punta Arena in Chile, and it was cool. It was right at the bottom of South America. It was windswept, it was barren, it was rugged. There was rotting hulks of ships that were sort of melting back into the sea. And I was still on a high from Antarctica. I ran hard, and I finished about 15 minutes ahead of the guy in second place again, so I had about a 45-minute lead. Got off the race course, and I got this email from my coach. And my coach said, "David, I hope you're really proud of yourself. I hope you think you're the big man. You set this world record in Antarctica, you're 45 minutes up, you think you're really clever, but you, my friend, you have stuffed this up, you've blown it. Because if you keep going like this, you can forget about winning, you're not going to finish this race." And he was right. He was really right. He was only joking with me, but he was completely right. And so I got together with the guy in second place, Doug. And I said, "Doug, look, we are friends. You know, we're not here to fight each other. We're here for an experience. What are we doing? Let's work together. Let's enjoy it. Let's run together. When I'm having a bad day, you keep me going. When you're having a bad day, I'll pick you up again." And we did. We got to Miami. Miami was brilliant. It was exactly like you expect South Beach, Miami. Girls in bikinis, guys pumping iron. It was great. The sun was out. We ran together, big smiles on our face, lovely day. Got to Madrid in Europe, also really good. It was a bit cold, ran around this lake, but again, we ran together, it was great. And then we got to Morocco, to Africa. And if Antarctica was my high point, Morocco was my low point. We arrived at midnight. It was the third marathon we were supposed to run in a 24-hour period. By the way, the flights had worked out. It was 8 degrees Celsius, it was raining, and we went out to the city block on the outskirts of the city to run this 3-kilometer loop 12 times. And just before the race started, I got an email from my wife with a picture of my 5-year-old daughter starting her first day of school without me being there. And that was it, that was the straw, and I'd had enough. The race was over, I was doing this stupid thing around the world, and it wasn't working out. I was going home. And I was serious, I packed my bags and was going home. And on the way out, I met one of the other runners, this guy, Big Jim, lovely guy. And Big Jim said, "What's up?" And I said, "Oh, look, this has happened, I can't do this anymore, it's not gonna work out." And he said, "You too, huh?" Because I'm feeling pretty awful. "Let's get to the starting line, let's just start, let's see where we finish up, give it a go from there." And so we did, we got to the starting line, we ran, and halfway round, I wasn't paying attention, I hit a pothole, I broke my ankle. I got a stress fracture in my right ankle. It wasn't completely broken, but it was broken enough to be quite sore. But I finished the day, and I finished the race. And it's funny, because some days, your worst day, it actually becomes your best day. And on that day, I truly learned how far I could dig, and how deep I could push, and how much I could come back from. And that was a victory. Got to Dubai, and Dubai was great. If you don't know people in the slides, that guy is Haile Gebrselassie, who's probably the world's most famous long-distance runner. He's world marathon, Olympic champion. He's a proper real runner. He ran with me for one loop, and he absolutely destroyed me. But he's ran Dubai, ran it together with the guy in second place, Doug. We had smiles on our faces, all good. And then we got to Sydney. And Sydney was tough. Sydney was very, very tough. When I turned up, Sydney was Doug's hometown. The guy in second place was his hometown, and all of his friends were there to cheer him on and respect to him. That's great. And I had a broken right ankle, frostbite in 2 toes, knees that wouldn't bend, and I had legs that were so puffy with inflammation that I could push a finger and it would leave a mark. But I also had a secret weapon. My wife came down, and my dad, who's also in the audience here, came to see me. And I remember it to the day. My wife turned up and she goes, "Honey, you look great." And I'm thinking, yeah, it's the first time in your life you ever lied to me, but it kept me going. And he got me to the starting line, and I ran, and Doug took off like a rocket. I don't know how he did it, because I could hardly hobble. And we got halfway round, and I was in despair, because I thought I was gone. And my wife was there, and she said, "He's about 8 minutes up on you, but you can do this. You know, you'll be okay." And at that moment, I had to make a decision. I could play it conservative, and I could hold my ankle together, and I was probably going to finish about 2nd or 3rd overall, which is pretty good. You finish 2nd or 3rd in the World Marathon Championship, that's great. Or I'd go hard, and I might win, but I might properly break the ankle, and if the ankle breaks properly and it's an open fracture, you can't run. You're gone, you're off, and you're the guy who didn't finish out of everybody. And as I said before, I've always been an idiot. I thought, yeah, I'll go for it, whatever. And I ran hard. And I don't remember the second half of that. I don't remember the second half of that race at all. But I do remember crossing the finish line. And I remember them handing me the trophy and telling me I'd won. And I remember the press taking my photograph. And I remember rapidly handing that trophy to my wife as I passed out. And I woke up the next day in the hotel room. But it was an amazing experience, and I'm really, really glad I did it. And the way I see it is kind of not for me to tell you what to take away from that, but maybe I can tell you what I took away from it. Firstly, I was never the guy. I was never the guy you would have expected to do this. But I had something I really wanted to do, and something I had a group of people behind me who really supported me to do it. And what I'm trying to say is, if you really want something, it doesn't have to be a stupid race around the world. If you really want something, you can do it. And secondly, I learned that you have to work with people. You have to work with people who are your friends, and you have to work with people who are your competitors. And that took me a long time to learn. But if you work together with people, you'll get further than if you try and do it alone, much further. Thank you.